she tells me that the year prior, in October of 22, she and her fiance had come to visit over Halloween. And she tells me that during that visit, she woke up with Steve in her bed, assaulting her. And my first words were, "I believe you, but I don't know how to accept this."
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, a free safe space for people to share and learn from others' experiences with mental health and addictions. I'm Todd Rennebaum, suicide attempt survivor and a recovering substance abuser. Got another amazing episode here. It's going to be a two-parter, actually. It's with Amy Irvine. But before I get into that, I want to make an announcement. So you may have noticed that I've been replaying some older episodes, and I mean, that's not uncommon for podcasts to do that, especially in the summer, but it also gave me time to work on a project that I'm very proud of. I've actually been working on it for over the last 6 months, and it is a podcast series, an 8-part series, separate from Bunny Hugs and Mental Health. It's going to be released all on its own, and it's called Transgression: My Search for the Real Trans Agenda in Saskatchewan. So that series is all about what it's like being trans in Saskatchewan. And Saskatchewan is a province in Canada that I live in. And our provincial government here in the last couple of years have kind of set their sights on trans people. But anyway, here's a little sneak peek for that series.
Biological boys will not be in the change room with biological girls.
Unimaginable hate was raging down on my family.
They want somebody to blame, and it's trans people.
We don't have to understand, we just need compassion.
Bill 137, zero Indigenous consultation.
We all know who's ruining the economy: transgenders.
He was talking about how he wanted to shoot me in the face.
I have been called a groomer, just being a teacher and all, you know.
The regret rates for gender-affirming surgery are less than 1%.
Gender-affirming care is mental health care.
What do you think would be going through a 12-year-old's mind when they hear the premier of their province targeting them?
They just want to live their life.
Okay, so there it is. Now, this series comes out October 1st, where the first 3 episodes will drop, as they say, and then the next 5 episodes will be weekly after that. So stay tuned for that. Look out for that. That's coming up here right away. Yeah, super excited for that. Also super excited for you to listen to Amy Irvine's story. I actually recorded it with her, back, I think it was in May, and she has quite the tale to tell. She fell in love with a young guy, got married, and as she'll explain, she finds out that he is actually a serial rapist. And his victims included some of her family members and her friends, and she'll get into all of that. And of course, she's also a victim. If you're listening, please rate, review on Apple and whatever you're listening to. Tell people about the podcast, etc., etc. Anyway, without further ado, I give you Amy Irvine.
I met him when I was 19, and he was 20-ish, weirdly enough, in Tokyo, Japan. And he was from California, and I was from Scotland.
So you moved to Washington. Oregon,
yeah. Well, we lived in California for a while, but it's expensive in the Bay Area, and there's no seasons. And I missed the seasons. We ended up here.
Did you know much about his past other than, well, what did you know about him?
Well, I mean, when I first met him, I was 19. Like, I was a kid myself. He was a kid. He just seemed like this outgoing, kind of loud, funny, like just very charismatic person at that time. And yeah, I mean, I was in Tokyo on a year abroad at university, and he was in the same class as I was, and then that's kind of how we met. And so I didn't really know anything about him at that time. And then, we started dating and we got married. I met him in 2008 and we got married in 2012 in California. And so, when I met him, didn't really know anything. There weren't any red flags, as often is the case with people who are incredibly skilled, liars, manipulators. So didn't think anything of it for years and years.
Did you notice anything before getting married? Was there some red flags?
The only red flag that there was that he had told me that his high school girlfriend, Cecily, had once accused him of rape. And I'm like, okay, why? Like, what was the situation there? And he explained to me that she and him went to a very religious Christian private school growing up. And he's like, we were dating and it was all fine. And she just had religious guilt for doing anything before marriage. And that's why it was religious guilt. And, he just kind of explained it away. And in Scotland and most of the UK, religion isn't quite as it is in the States.
There's no mega churches?
No, it doesn't feel quite so scary over there. People are just kind of quietly religious, and that's fine. So I was just like, okay, like I took that at face value. That seemed like a plausible enough story. I'm sure that is an issue that kids face, like young kids like that. And his mom even backed up this story too. So I especially am just like, oh, okay. Like the parents figured it out. They talked. It was fine. So that's probably the only big red flag that if I wasn't 19 at the time, I might have looked into that more, maybe even contacted this girl back then. But I didn't, because he and his mom both very adamant that was all it was. And the families kind of just came together. They talked about it and it was fine. Looking back now, I'm like, damn, I really wish that I had just reached out to that girl, because if I had then, I mean, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on it too, because like, had I reached out to her back then and had I split up with him before I ever married him, yeah, like I would have been saved all of this, but would he have ever been caught? You just never know. Like maybe ultimately this was better because maybe he's done less harm.
Could drive yourself crazy with the shouldas and the couldas and all the scenarios that maybe could have been, and this is what happened, and so this is what it is. So and that's completely fair. That why wouldn't you believe him? It's not like you're both young. It's not like you've been in long-term relationships before, other than maybe a high school crush thing or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a boyfriend in high school before him, but I think one of the reasons that I was kind of a prime target for him is that my mother has undiagnosed, but I'm pretty certain she's an undiagnosed narcissistic personality disorder. And that particular brand of abuse and control and manipulation is something that I had grown up with. And so it felt very normal and very familiar. So I think meeting someone like him, and he definitely is a narcissist, probably a sociopath, all of the bad stuff. But then, I think meeting him, from having come from the home that I did and the childhood that I had, my relationship with my parents, I think a lot of that stuff I missed because it felt normal, because that was how I was treated by a parent who's somebody who is, meant to care for me and love me. And I think the same thing just happened with him, and it was very easy for him to manipulate me and control me, and he just took advantage of that.
I fully understand what you're saying. How long were you married for? 15 years, is that right?
We were together for 15 years and married for almost 11. Yeah, so I met him at 19, married at 23, and then filed for divorce at 34.
I know that red flags, they're easy to dismiss, or, things are justified. It's like the boiling frog thing, where it's so slow that the frog doesn't even realize it's being boiled alive by the end of it. But now looking back, what were some of the things in the marriage that you noticed that were like, oh, this was shit and this was shit?
Yeah, I mean, there's been there's been a lot of small little kind of realizations and epiphanies about behaviors or idiosyncrasies that I have, that I only now have realized I do those things or I react that way because of him and because of that relationship. He did a lot of the same things with his high school girlfriend, Cecily, as he did with me. There was always kind of a quiet but steady attempt to isolate from our friends, from family. There were little like comments just like sprinkled everywhere. He fostered this kind of us against the world type of mentality. And I think that's something that a lot of abusers do because they want you to become entirely dependent on them. And that's kind of what I felt like. I felt like so trapped in this relationship that I really was unhappy in. And, you know, I knew that he was being abusive.
Was he physically abusive?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he was all types of abusive. But I never told anyone until all of this came out.
So he controlled the narrative.
Oh, yeah. He had a very like loud personality, which initially I think was one of the reasons that I liked him, because I'm not a super loud person. I don't like tons of attention like that. And I feel like in the early days, his loudness and his like boisterousness and confidence those were all good things. Looking back now, I see that all of that, it's like his confidence became arrogance. His fun, like loud sense of humor became just rude and mean-spirited. And it's like I saw all of these personality traits after the fact when I wasn't seeing him through the lens that he made. Like all of these things that he was that I initially thought were good actually are terrible sociopathic traits for a person to have. I don't know. It was really, really difficult to try and reconcile who I thought he was. It's kind of hard to explain because even though he was abusive to me and doing like terrible things to me that I wasn't telling anyone else about, trying to reconcile the fact that he actually is a criminal and he's a bad person who has done these things to other people with the person that I thought he was, and putting those two people together was really, really difficult. But I always knew he was a bad person, but I wasn't ready to admit it to myself, if that makes any sense, until it was made very clear that I'm not the only person that he had been abusing in these ways. None of that made any sense. They build an image for you, and you believe in that image, even though you're given evidence to the contrary. And that's, I think, why it's very difficult in these types of relationships, because you kind of battling with yourself. I think so many women have this intuition and they know the truth of the matter, but it takes something for us to actually get to the point of being able to accept it.
Right. It's coercive control, which that's what cult leaders do and other sociopaths and people like that do. And they can love bomb you. They can groom you. Like I said, the boiling frog scenario where you slowly turn up the heat to the point you're now in a boiling thing of water and you're still in love with that person and you think good stuff because it's so slow and gradual and it's so diabolical, really. That shit creeps me out, man.
Yeah. He would lie about everything, but until, again, everything came out and he was arrested and now he's sentenced, I didn't know how much he was lying. Even inconsequential things where, like, I feel like mostly people will lie for some gain, but he would just lie about everything. He would say that he's been to see a concert of some band who he's never been to see for no reason. Or he once said that he did a sleep study. No, he didn't. Why are you lying about these small things? It's so funny to look back now because I can see how dishonest he always was and how I just accepted everything he did or said as truth. When I kicked him out of the house, when I found this out, there were certain things around the house that were like his job, like taking the trash out or refilling the dog water because it's quite like awkward and heavy. And I remember when he would do those things in front of me, he would make a big show about how difficult it was. Like, oh, this is so heavy. This is so hard for me to do. And all of those little things even were other just forms of manipulation and to make me feel totally dependent on him. Because when he left, I realized this thing isn't heavy. I can do this myself. Why has he been acting like this is heavy? So I can start the lawnmower myself. I can mow the hill. I can do all of these things that he would always just say to me, like, these things are too hard for you, and make such a big show of just performing and showing off how necessary he was to me and to my everyday life. Once he was gone, I found that I didn't need him at all. Everything that he would do, I can do. And that's just another way that he would kind of isolate and control.
Again, just diabolical. So I guess we haven't really talked about why he went to jail or what happened, but you eventually found out.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. So I found that out. He was actually out of state. He was in California visiting his sick uncle, and I was here. I'll always remember the date. It was March 22nd of 23. I had walked into town and I met some friends just for a beer, and I get a text from my sister, and she's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, where am I? I'm at home." Like, meaning just generally, I'm like, where I always am. And she's like, "No, you're not at home." And I'm like, "Well, no, I'm not. I'm out." Like, "What do you mean, where am I?" Like, why are you asking? And she said, "We're here." They are in Scotland. So when I get this text from her saying they're here, I'm like, "What do you mean? You're not here." And she said, "No, seriously, we're here. Where are you? We're going to come pick you up." And I'm like, "What? What? Like, what do you mean? Are you joking?" And she's like, "No, I'm deadly serious. Where are you?" And so I tell her the bar that I was at. 10 minutes later, they pull up outside. And I'm just like, "What is happening? Why are you here? How are you here? What? This wasn't planned. This is like some random day. I had no idea what was happening." And so they're like, "Get in the car. We're going to take you to an Airbnb and we'll explain." Okay, what? What is happening? And I just keep asking, what is happening? What is happening? My heart's beating out of my chest. And I texted Steve, my ex, "Dad and Kirsty are here. What is going on?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe did someone die?" And I'm like, I don't know. They said no, but they won't tell me what's happening. I'm just in the car and I don't know what's happening. What is happening? And I actually then said to Steve 3 separate times in this chain of text that I was sending while I was in the car with them, "Have you done something?" Because I had a feeling it was something to do with him. And I didn't know what it was, would never have expected it to be what it ends up being. But I was just like, "You did something. This is you. Anytime something bad happens, you written all over it. Like, what is going on?" And so we get to the Airbnb, and my dad just disappears upstairs. I'm still just like, what is happening? Why aren't you saying anything? Can you tell me what is going on? And so my sister and I sit down on the couch in the Airbnb, and she tells me that the year prior, so this is March of 23, and in October of 22, she and her fiance had come to visit over Halloween. And she tells me that during that visit, she woke up with Steve in her bed, uh, assaulting her. And I'm just like, my first words were, "I believe you, but I don't know how to accept this." Because, this is someone I've been with for, at this point, 15 years. Just like the shock of hearing that this person had done this to her in my home when she was visiting, I my brain just was doing mental gymnastics to try to make this like either not real or some sort of mistake. I mean, there's no way that could be a mistake, but trying to reconcile that information with just like my life had been totally normal 30 minutes prior. And that was that was a trip of a moment. And then so she tells me that my other sister had also had the same experience the year before that in Christmas of 21. And the same thing had happened to her. And she had held on to that secret for over a year until had come forward herself. And then it came out that it had happened to her too. And then my dad came back down the stairs they had like written statements of what had happened. And so I read those.
Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At forhers.com/4u, you can access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored just for you. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
And I sat, with them for a while, and I had texted Steve, you're a monster. I know that you've done these things. I have no reason not to believe them, because what would they gain from this? They flew all the way over here to tell me a lie. Like, of course they didn't. I was just like sobbing into my dad, and they didn't know that he was out of town when they flew over here. So it kind of actually worked out in a way. And so I had to come home that night because I have dogs to take care of. And I just I don't know if I slept. I just I mean, what do you do? What do you do?
I'm assuming you kind of just disassociated. You're just not even in your body. You're just that's a lot to unpack. How many siblings do you have?
3. I have a stepsister, a sister, and then a half brother. And everyone else is all in Scotland, and I'm over here. And it gets even worse than that. It just keeps getting worse.
I think a lot of people don't understand partner rape, marital sexual abuse. Do you feel like he had done that to you at any point?
Yeah. He had, from times that I remember, he had attempted it twice. The first time was pretty violent. I was wearing a pair of denim overalls, and he tore, denim, it's denim. That's hardy material, but he tore one of the straps, so the button came ripped the denim all the way up. He tore that trying to get me, and I got away that time. I just remember running into the bathroom and locking the door and staring at myself in the mirror and going, "You're okay, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay," over and over and over again. And then the next morning after that had happened, I said to him, "We need to talk about what you did last night." And he's like, "What do you mean? What did I do?" And just deny, downplays it, minimizes it. And I just, against my better judgment, kind of just swept it under the rug and just was like, okay, whatever, this is fine. Because I'd invested, so many years of my life into this person. I think it's the sunk cost fallacy often. Actually, in relationships, people stick with someone long past when they know they should, only because they've already invested in them. And they keep thinking oh, well, it was good at one time. Maybe we'll get back there. I certainly ignored my intuition. I ignored a lot of my own boundaries just because I didn't want the shame of having to tell people that this stuff had happened to me and that I didn't leave immediately. And that's kind of the stigma, I think, around marital rape and marital or domestic, well, really any sort of domestic relationship and abuse, because we feel like we chose it because we chose this person. But that isn't what anybody ever chooses, obviously. it took a lot. He did a lot to me. Like I said, I remember 2 times he attempted, and I know for sure that he will have succeeded a lot, because there was a period where I was on anti-anxiety medication and I kept just blacking out. If I would have a drink in the evening, I would wake up the next day and just be like, huh? Like, how did I just completely lose hours and hours of time from one drink? Because you're not meant to mix those meds with alcohol. And I have no way to prove this, but there was something shady going on, because since he's been out of my life, I've never blacked out like that ever again. And I would wake up dozens, hundreds of times. I have memories of just waking up completely naked, not remembering barely anything about the night before. So I know that he would have taken advantage of those situations, possibly created them. I'm not sure. And his MO was sleeping or otherwise unconscious women. So if I'm asleep, I'm right there, like passed out in some capacity. That was always what he went for, was when people were unconscious in their beds.
I'm trying to put my mind, like, I'm a father. I could imagine being your father, knowing that not just one of your kids were raped, but your 3 daughters were sexually assaulted, raped by the same fucking guy.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad's aged over these past 2 years. It's been kind of devastating to see, because, and again, like, it's that whole thing of, if I never married this man, if I never chose this man, this wouldn't have happened to me, but it wouldn't have happened to them either. So for a long time, I felt like I did this, like this is my fault, but it's not. The only person to blame for a sexual assault is the assaulter. And so that took me a long time to reconcile. I think my dad, yeah, he's just, I wouldn't be where I am without everything that he's done, but just the toll that it's taken on him is, it's been sad to see. I don't have kids, and I don't want kids, but I can't imagine how difficult that is for a parent to watch this happen to all of his children.
It'd be so tempting to just, because it was all the same guy, it'd be so tempting to just, I'll say it, kill that motherfucker.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, unfortunately, none of us are actually criminals. He's the only criminal here. But yeah, definitely, I don't know how you can control the rage as a parent. I feel like that must have taken some deep strength.
So you find this stuff out. Kind of what's the next chapter?
So I come home for the dogs, and he was meant to be back the next day from California. And I'm like, basically, it's just a constant stream of texts from me to him, just being like, how could you do this? Every time there's been smoke, there's been fire, because there's been some weird incidents with other friends of ours, and people have said like, oh, he touched me inappropriately, or he did this, or he did that. And like, there's been odd things had happened, but they'd always been kind of explained away, and the relationship or friendship or whatever, it was fine. But now I'm just thinking, no, every single time anything has ever been said, it happened and it was intentional. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. So I'm just thinking like more and more pieces are coming into place, and just losing my mind over this. And we need to have a conversation tomorrow. I can't be with you. Like, I believe them. There's no way I don't believe them. And so he comes back, but he doesn't talk to me first. My dad wants to talk to him. And so he talks with my dad, and he basically confesses to my dad. He says, I was drunk. I don't remember, but I did it. And he's crying and sobbing and everything. Then he says the same thing to me. He confesses. He says, I was drunk. It was the alcohol. No, it wasn't the alcohol. It was you. alcohol makes you less inhibited, but you're not going to do something you wouldn't do if you were sober. It was still you. He admits it, but through tears. I'm the victim in this case, basically, he says. That was the implication, is just like, oh, but it's why, like, you could ruin my life and I didn't mean to, etc., etc. And he leaves because I'm like, you need to go stay with your mother because she also lives in the same town. So he does. Then the next day after that, my dad calls a locksmith. We change all the locks in my house. We get cameras up everywhere, and I filed for divorce. Yeah, and then he never came back to the house. He did a couple times to like just pick up some stuff, but otherwise we had just filed and that was it. He was out of here. After I filed for divorce, they filed a report with the police, and then a 2-year criminal lawsuit and civil would run alongside each other. So my sister and dad left at some point. I can't remember how long they were here, maybe a week. I started sleeping with a knife and a bat by my bed. I would leave the like lamps on in the just around, just so that it looked like maybe dad was still here or he was staying with me or something. I did that for almost a year. Yeah, after they filed the report, justice moves slowly, very, 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 very fucking slowly. It took a long time. I think that it was filed in March. It was only in October that he was indicted. And then a warrant went out for his arrest. But he was again in California at this time. Essentially, he caught wind it was happening and he turned himself in. His bail was at $500,000 and his mom paid it. Although in Oregon, it's only 10% of whatever your bail is. So she paid $50,000 to get him out. He still had his freedom, but he had to ask if he could leave the state or if he could go do this, that, or the other. And one of the terms was that he couldn't enter bars or tap rooms or anything like that, because a lot of this was around alcohol. We all gave interviews. I had to do what's called I think it was a pre-tech phone call, where basically I sat with a police officer and I called him to try to get him to incriminate himself over the phone in the same way, because he did when I saw him in person that first day that we had that first conversation. But it didn't work. He was on to us. He'd already been coached on what to do, what to say, or what not to say. So that didn't work. So we were just kind of stuck with trying to gather as much as we can because, you know, in these cases, almost all the time, it's just he said, she said. There's not usually witnesses. There's not usually physical evidence unless somebody gets like a rape kit done. And I just started reaching out to everyone that I could think of. Any girl, any friend, any woman I met in a bar one night, even reaching out to as many people as I possibly could just to ask, hey, have you had ever any sort of incident? Doesn't matter how small. Please, like, know that I'll believe you. And if you want, I want you to have your own voice in this. And I uncovered a lot of people. Basically, every female friend I've ever had, he has assaulted or attempted to assault. They've woken up with him just in their bed. Their clothes are disheveled, but maybe they don't have any actual memories of something. There was no anything, anyone. It didn't matter his relationship with them. It didn't matter my relationship with them. Didn't matter if they were a close friend and, you know, they were staying over because they felt safe here. He went for everyone. He didn't discriminate. The whole house of cards just came tumbling down. And I think the case itself started out with 5 victims, and that dropped to 3. One removed herself because she just didn't want the stress of it, which also happens a lot because the system moves so slowly and people don't want to keep retelling the story over and over again. They just want to move on, and then they keep getting dragged back into it. And so she removed herself. Another victim was the DA, because it was the state versus my ex. And so the DA had decided to remove her because her situation could lead the jury to have a doubt, and he didn't want the chance that one doubt with one victim would lead to doubt with the others. So we got down to 3 victims. But of the women that I found, this is like a global thing. He would attack women when we were traveling. When we went back to the UK one year, a woman had an incident. And so I found about, I think in total, 25 women who had something happen. And it could be, I think flashing was the least of what he would do, but he really ran the gamut of just sexual assault. He did absolutely everything. Yeah, so of those 25 women, only 3 were legally victims. Some of them didn't want any interest. They didn't want to be involved in the case at all. Some of them did, but they couldn't because their incident happened in a different state or a different county. So then the DA here couldn't use that as evidence anyway. So it was a lot of women that he did this to.
Were your sisters any of the victims? Like in the case?
The legal case?
Yeah.
Yeah, they both were.
So it was your 2 sisters plus another?
A friend, yeah.
At this point, did you talk to his high school girlfriend?
Yeah, she was one of the ones that I reached out to once everything broke. Eventually, I got a message from her on Facebook, and she was like, oh, did you want to talk about it? And then that was it. And we've kind of, I think we've talked every single day since then, and that was now, it's been over a year. Yeah, she's the only other person that was in a committed relationship with him. So her experience is much like mine in that it's that more domestic coercive control. And so she really understands the psychology that goes into being a victim of domestic sexual assault and the trauma of it all. I mean, all of these things are traumatic, but she understands my specific trauma in a way that none of the other victims can.
So I'm assuming she's probably gone through the same feelings you had, where it was, if I had gone to the police right away, there wouldn't be all these victims. Then that's amazing you're there for each other.
Having her has been better than any therapy at all, just because she's so understanding. She can really, truly empathize. And she did actually, at the time, when she told people that this had been happening to her, it took her 3 years. And she was a kid. She was 15 when she met him. It took her 3 years to get away from him. And when she finally did tell people, mostly people didn't believe her. She had a couple friends who did, but her family didn't believe her. And then his mother started threatening her. And, you're an 18-year-old. Someone's mother says they're going to call the police on you if you don't shut up. That's terrifying. And so she did. She just stopped saying it. She just she just went off to uni. Luckily, she went to a different one than him. He had tried to follow her to university even after they had broken up. She just kept herself offline as much as she could, but she knows that over the years he's kind of been creeping on her, and then this came up. It's 20 years later for her. She's tried to move on with her life, and she went through a lot of abuse, and it's changed her. And suddenly, out of nowhere, she gets a message saying, oh, hey, remember that high school boyfriend who raped you and nobody believed that he had done this? Well, he was just indicted for rape. And so that was a huge moment for her.
Yeah, it must have been extremely validating, which sounds terrible. He had to go and hurt a bunch of other people for me to feel validated.
Yeah. No, yeah. And that's the thing, though. I think that we all kind of feel that way. We all have the same, oh, if only I had done something. But it's none of us. It's only him. And she definitely felt because I had given her name to the police officer, the detective on the case, and he had reached out to her too. And so she's dredging all of this back up unexpectedly out of the blue, and then gets in contact with me. And she even had old chat history saved.
From 20 years ago.
Yep, she
Wow.
still has some of that stuff, and she sent me some of the conversations that she and him would have in high school. And then it was wild because I had been poring over my text history looking for anything that I could use to give to the police, and I had found a conversation that almost exactly mirrored the one that she had sent me from 20 years ago. I don't even remember what the details of it are, but it's just that his tactics were the same. He was doing and saying the same things. And it was just insane to see that. Wow, ever since he was a kid, he's been this way. He's just gotten better.
Do you know much about Steve's upbringing and what led him to being this way?
So, well, that's the thing too that she and I have had conversations about because obviously she was there when he was actually a young kid. So, what he told me, and we do both of us think this was a huge pack of lies, but what he told me was that he was sexually abused by his grandfather when he was a child. And he told me I've known this for years. Probably within the first couple of years of dating him, he told me that. Neither of us think that this is true. I think it's something he said just to gain sympathy, attention. I don't know. But
or if he was caught, he's already planting seeds of an excuse.
Exactly. Yeah, he's already laying the foundation for like, oh, but I'm this way because of my traumatic childhood. Okay, well, most people that are traumatized as children don't visit that same trauma. Some people do, sure, but that doesn't make it right. So that's what he said had happened. And I've never heard anyone else in the family say this. He told me that this happened and that at the time when he was a kid, he told his mom that it had happened and that his mom and him never told anyone else in the family. He also happens to have a sister who's 14 years younger than him. It seems odd to me that if he went to his mom and he said, I'm being abused by my grandpa, that his mom would still allow her child, her little toddler, baby girl, to be taken care of by these grandparents. We'll never know on that one. We've asked the family since this has come out because he had said, this is a big secret. Nobody knows. It's only me and my mom. And we put it out to the wider family since then. And we said, hey, well, this is what was said. And not a single person believes it. Nobody else came forward to say, yeah, that happened to me too. I don't think that this happened. I think that this is just a convenient tool he's been using.
As a victim of sexual assault, you want to believe all victims of sexual assault.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird that I would say, I don't think this happened because, yeah, the whole thing is believe victims. But I don't know. There's no other evidence to it either. So we'll never really know on that one, but that's what he said. But he's also proven himself to be a liar. So
Right. For no reason. It's like, I just had a glass of milk. No,
yeah,
you didn't.
Literally.
Why would you lie about that? What's
literally those are like the types of weird things that he would lie about. Like, what are you doing?
Was he raised by a single mother?
Yeah, and that also kind of plays into it. His whole childhood, his mom, he has a very strange relationship with his mom. Honestly, I think that he is the serial rapist that he is because he has a deep hatred for women because he hates his mother. It's very much like an Ed Kemper kind of situation.
I was just going to say Ed Kemper.
Yeah. He's always resented her because growing up, she worked a lot. His dad left, his biological dad left when he was a kid, I think maybe 6 or something like that. And then so she was raising him alone for quite a while, met another man who's his half sibling's father. And so he had this man around in his life for his teenage years. And apparently he was pretty abusive towards his mother and towards him as well, he said. And his mother never left this guy. She just allowed him to abuse her son. again, I don't know how much of that happened or how much might have been spun to be more than it was or something. But I have heard things from the family that man was abusive. So I'm sure he was definitely towards his mother. I don't know if he was abused. That's what he said. Some of the things that he said to me about his relationship with that man and his upbringing in the teenage years and the things he said to Cecily are not the same. So we don't know. It's hard to tell. But yeah, he had apparently quite an abusive childhood.
I can also feel empathy for people and also want them behind bars forever. You know what I mean? So if this did happen to him, it was like, oh, that sucks. That's too, the poor kid. But also, you're in jail now forever, and that's a good thing. So now if you had talked to his ex, you had gathered information on other people. So then 3 of you are going to court now. Well, actually, you weren't one of the victims, technically, but you were obviously there every day, and you were a big part of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, and I never actually really understood why I wasn't listed as a legal victim, but it might have just been because in the same way that he wanted to take out one of the victims because it could lead to doubt, maybe having me there as the wife would kind of muddy the waters. I'm not really sure. But yeah, we ended up with the 3 of us. The trial itself was originally slated to last 2 weeks, but it actually ended up lasting, I believe, 3 days, and then the jury took 2 days to deliberate. That was the trial itself. The whole process from filing the report with the police to the trial and the sentencing took almost exactly 2 years. If you are a person that already thinks that the court system is messed up, it's so much worse than you could ever imagine. My God. The amount of what I would consider to be evidence that is inadmissible is staggering. So anytime I hear of a person who walked free for rape or murder or something like that, I'm always going to question it, because if we had 100 pieces of evidence, they probably used maybe 20. It was such a small amount in the total. Actually, probably even less than that. It's just so obvious that this guy has done these things, but in the court system, again, like, it doesn't make sense to me, but they're working off of some sort of rules. But yeah, I mean, I would have thrown him away immediately, but that's not how it works. We filed 2 years ago, and then, so after we'd filed and everything, he was house sitting for a neighbor, and that neighbor witnessed or heard some sort of commotion and screaming and arguing, and a woman ran out of the house that he was house sitting and off down the street, and Steve ran out after her and was like screaming at her to come back and saying like, it's fine, it's nothing. So strange things like that I kept discovering, and we just kept adding and adding to this pile of evidence. Or in my mind, it was adding to a pile of evidence. I found out most of it wasn't used. Eventually, we would set a hearing. He would just delay. He just kept delaying and delaying and delaying and delaying. And he just has his freedom this whole time. When he was indicted and arrested originally, his bail was $500,000. In Oregon, you only pay 10%. So his mom paid $50,000 to get him out. And so for the 2 years that this was going on, he was just free to do whatever. And did you know you also get your money back, even if you're convicted? So his mom got the $50,000 back. I always thought that you would lose it, but she got it back. I think minus some maybe like admin fees or something like that. I thought that was very strange.
Thank you so much for that, Amy. And thank you so much for reaching out, telling your story. I know it can't be easy, especially because, I mean, when we talked and recorded, it was only maybe a few months prior when the conviction was. So, yeah, thank you so much. Amy's just the sweetest, most lovely person you'll ever meet. And I reached out to a friend of mine who she works at This Is Actually Happening podcast, really big, wonderful podcast. And Amy will be on their podcast too at some point coming up here. Anyway, if you like the podcast, if you like the show, like I said, please rate and review. It helps me out so much in ways that you can't even imagine. You can go to my website, www.bunnyhugspodcast.com. There's all types of stuff on there, my social media links and all that stuff. There's even a link there to buy me a coffee if you're so inclined to be nice enough to throw a couple dollars my way. You can sign up so it does it monthly without you even knowing, $2 or $5 or whatever it is. Thank you to everyone that does that. And yeah, make sure to watch out for Transgression, my search for the real trans agenda in Saskatchewan. Stay tuned for part 2 of this episode. Amy will talk all about the court case and everything and what she's learned from all of this. So, till next time, remember to make your beds and take your meds. Bye.